Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new year 2019. If you look around, a lot of people are doing a lot of best of lists, worst of lists, and I've already kind of had my fill, but I want to do one myself. Last year I had two New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolution number one was to give up soda, and for the most part, I did. My other New Year's resolution didn't come until around May. I decided that I wanted to start reading more, and so I read more last year, I think, than I have in my entire life combined, if you don't count Harry Potter and Dark Tower, because those books are long. But other than that, I've read a lot. Now, I used to just buy books and not read them, and they collected dust, and I was like, oh, I can't justify buying more books, even though I do. I just love the smell of a bookstore. I decided to actually go ahead and start reading more. So what we have here, this is going to be the first of 3 videos, which I discuss the worst books that I read this year, the best books that I read this year, and all the other shit that I read this year as well. Now, they're not all books. A lot of them could be classified as short stories or novellas, but we're going to go through them. I'm going to give very quick, rapid-fire yays or nays or boo-bahs as we go through them, just to kind of get this all out of my system, because there's going to be a nice little bit of closure for the year that I really started turning everything around and reading more. And hopefully, going on to 2019, I'll be able to put another dent in the rest of the stuff that you see behind me, including all those goddamn Warhammer books. Ugh. Okay, here we go. So, before we get going with the worst of the year, we're going to go through a couple of books that I did not even finish for some reason or another. Either they didn't catch my attention or etc. Let's start first with this fucking thing here. Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. It's a book about a haunted house that's supposed to be haunted, and I'm like 57 pages in it and I've barely seen the haunted house. Also, I hate these fucking pages like this. Something about the characters I just didn't care. I won the Bram Stoker Award. You're gonna see a lot of these are sci-fi horror stuff. It just didn't grab me. Next up, we have Harry Turtledove Bombs Away. This is the first book of the Hot War. I am going to finish this. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I have the other 2 back here, some alt history of the Cold War stuff. Exciting. Next, we have Bird Box by Josh Malerman. The Netflix movie came out recently, and I stopped reading this before then. The main character just didn't grab me. But I watched the movie and enjoyed it, but I don't know if it's enough to make me want to go back and slog through this book, but I do want to read his next book, Unbury Carol, so I might just go ahead and give this a shot. Next, we have The Red Threads of Fortune by Jai Yang. This is the second book in a triple part series that suckered me in because of this beautiful ass cover, and we'll talk about why I didn't finish this in a bit. Next up, we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I do plan on finishing this. I just haven't gotten around to it. Halloween happened, and that kind of put a change in my reading plans, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then last, the book that I have not finished, even though, my God, I have tried, is Dark Imperium by Guy Hadley, a Warhammer 40k book. Oh my God. Out of all of the people that I've read for Warhammer, he is my least favorite, and this thing has just been a fucking slog to get through. And the only reason it's not on my worst of list is because I haven't finished it. So, let's get to the worst books that I read in 2018. I didn't say they came out in 2018. These are just the worst books that I read in 2018. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Jai Yang, The Black Tides of Heaven. This is a novella written in a world where magic is called slack. The reason why I don't like this is because the world building feels clumsy as hell and crazy forced. It's just like when you take a bite of something and there's a little bit of sand, you're like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. That's what this felt like. There were some really smart and awesome ideas that I wish weren't as implemented as heavy-handedly. I like the idea that everyone is gender neutral until they turn a certain age and they decide what gender they want to be. And then there are twins, and do they pick the same one? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But it's a very interesting idea, but ooh, this execution, this 200-something page novella felt like fucking War and Peace because it was a pain in my ass to get through. Next up, oh, another novella. This one by Brooke Bolander, The Only Harmless Great Thing. Now here's a problem that I'm going to run into a lot. The description on the back of this is going to be fucking rad, but then when you actually get through, this one isn't even 100 pages. It took me like 3 weeks to get through this. Oh my God, this book was, all of these blurbs that you see, I don't trust them anymore unless I recognize something else that you've read, because this one is just about elephants and radium girls and some other stuff. I cannot unrecommend this enough. It is, oh, I know it's only 100 pages. You can get through it quick, but good God almighty. Next, we have one that is going to be because of taste. 1/3 of this book is amazing. The other 2/3 of this book range from what to The Vegetarian by Han Kang is not a book for me. This is one of those situations where it's a book that I did not enjoy because the premise, some dude's wife, some Korean guy's wife, all of a sudden decides she doesn't want to eat meat, and her family in Korea, that's a no-no. And her family starts getting crazy on her, and the end of the first part feels like it's gonna play out like a horror novel. You see the front of this, you're like, oh, some shit's about to go down. They never give a reason for it, and it's just, I don't care. The second chapter gets a little weird, and then the third chapter just goes off the rails to the point where I'm like, why did I even start reading this? I don't feel like the premise that was promised in the first part really was executed in the rest. And last, the one that I feel like is the most heartbreaking is The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. That gentleman is going to show up in another video that we talk about, because not only is he responsible for one of the worst things that I had to read this year, he's also responsible for one of the best. So it was kind of a weird miss for me. This one is written almost like a movie script. This is what I imagined a book would be if the Jamie Kennedy character from the Screen movies did a whole bunch of cocaine and like tried to go pitch a movie to a bunch of studio execs. That's what this is. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say the last few pages didn't get me like, oh, I'd read another one of these, but I am not reading this again. This one was, it was bad. I couldn't, it wasn't enjoyable. It seemed clunky. And it just seemed to go on and on and on and on. And the premise of it being like written like a movie kind of wore off very, very quickly. Now, I read a lot of books that were by different background authors. So I wanted to diversify my bookshelf from just being old white dudes into a broader spectrum of people from different backgrounds. So for example, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today one was from a Korean author, another was from some non-binary sexualities, some transgender authors, things like that, because I wanted to hear what a person with that background, how their voice would change moving forward. And with one, it was interesting to see how it changed from a Korean background, how that nationality is different and that culture is different. But the other ones, they were coming with a unique voice, but just because your voice is unique doesn't mean it's a good voice. But they had some decent ideas, and I just didn't like it. And this, oh God, I think he's a Blackfoot tribe member? Yeah. But those are the books that I felt like it was a wasted opportunity and a waste of my time to a big degree. So those are the worst books that I had to get through in 2018. The next video is going to be just kind of all the rest of the random stuff that I read, and then we're going to finish it up with the best stuff that I read of the year. Thank you so much for joining me. Peace the motherfuck out.